Patch 9.1 promised answers to all our burning questions, and you know what? We actually got quite a lot of them, as well as a bunch of fresh questions. But things like, who is the jailer? What does he want? And why must we stop him? Those are now far more clear. I mean, looking back, Blizzard were kind of explicit. The Shadowlands homepage says, "Death threatens to break its bonds and unravel reality. A conspiracy to unmake the cosmos. And all reality will be consumed." I mean, right there in front of us, but so huge sounding that... what did it realistically mean? Well, now we've got answers, and that's what we're doing today. Making the cosmos ending stuff actually make a bit more sense. Now, most of the context comes from Korthia and Tazavesh, giving us the cosmic states that the jailer is playing with. In Korthia, we finish up the Sigils storyline, and then in Tazavesh, we find an expedition report by the mad broker cryptographer Al-Firim, which gives us, if true, quite a glimpse at how our cosmos was actually made and the tools that the jailer is going to use to unmake it. So, what does the jailer want, and how is he going to get it? Our first hint? Well, Sylvanas' reason for joining Team Jailer.
Set us all free.
Blizzard mentioned the machinery of death quite often, so we basically connected the two, thinking that perhaps life is enslaved to this machinery and that Zovaal wanted to break us out. A sympathetic villain, a dickhead with a valid point to make. But those were the early days. Now we can more definitively say who he is and what he wants. Around the Crucible of Oribos are 5 pillars, each representing an eternal one, and the 5th, Zovaal's, is damaged. Long ago, he was chained to the Maw for betraying the others. That betrayal is key to our story, and it goes right back to the formation of the cosmos. Al-Firim, the half-mad broker, found the sepulchre of the First Ones. He discovered their language, and how it describes primal forces that he called fractals. They clashed in infinite ways until 6 great forces rose from the chaos, giving shape to the cosmos as we know it. Each of those primals gave a portion of themselves to the design and invested power in a pantheon to tend their creation. The Titans of Order, the Eternal Ones for death, and so on throughout the forces. They all seem to have their pantheons, their powerful figures. Now, the Eternal Ones were each given a sigil by these progenitors, the First Ones, representing their power and purpose in the Shadowlands and obviously having a lot of power imbued within them. Zovaal had a crucial position in this game, the Soul Tender, sending people off to one of the infinite afterlives. But for too long had he suffered the Maker's flawed creation, as he saw it. He thought his vision of reality was in fact better, so he decided to change reality. Believing that he could access the Sepulchre of the First Ones using his kin's sigils, Zovaal struck out with force. The Primus performed his function. Zovaal was thwarted. This betrayal is as much turning on family as it is turning on the design of the First Ones. Consider that everywhere Al-Firim traveled in this search for knowledge, he was told that it was forbidden. The knowledge that Zovaal sought was so extreme that his makers essentially outlawed it. Zovaal had his sigil ripped from his chest, and he was chained to the Maw by the domination magic, seemingly of Ardenweald, for it is the heart of the forest that powered it. His sigil was placed in the Arbiter, who then took his place in the Crucible, ferrying souls to their afterlives, until some point in Legion, where the machinery of death, aka the Arbiter, broke. The Primus thought that eons in chains would make Zovaal repent. But no, Zovaal learned to twist the domination magic that chained him to his own purposes. He had outside help though, Sire Denathrius. They had a whole project to destabilize the cosmos that we'll cover in another video. What is important here though is that the Jailer's plans still hinged on getting the 5 sigils. And through the events of patch 9.1 so far, we saw him get all 5. And that leaves us with the questions, what is next, and how does Azeroth fit in? There is an outstanding mystery to all of this. Where does Azeroth fit into the picture? I mean, what's important about her? Well, during the pre-patch, Mossworn told us that death was coming for our world. Now, we've talked about the Scourge's purpose, in fact, being to raise and unify Azeroth in undeath, protecting it from the other cosmic threats. When confronted in Zovaal's Sanctum, Kel'Thuzad even takes credit for being the architect of Azeroth's end. Kel'Thuzad really was involved in a lot. But then, there is just the simple fact here that the veil between worlds, right, between the material plane where we are, and the Great Dark is, and the Shadowlands, it was broken above Azeroth. Not Draenor, not Argus, it was above our worlds. We thought the Jailer's first move after freedom would have been to consume the world soul of Azeroth. But no, he's disappeared to a mysterious sepulchre that is stocked with First One's knowledge. So suppose our worst suspicions are true, and that he is literally going to rewrite the laws of the Cosmic Order. Where does Azeroth fit into that? And how exactly are we going to protect her? Well, hold on, we're almost there. So, the Covenants finally got their heads in gear and they launched a joint invasion into the Maw, opening up the Sanctum of Domination. We, of course, being players, try to break our way in and, save the world just in the nick of time. Just so that fails. Now, there were some huge wins for us, like finally taking out Kel'Thuzad and capturing Sylvanas, but make no mistake, the Jailer won. At the climax of the battle, the Jailer tore his sigil from the Arbiter's chest and reabsorbed it. He transformed into a vast and malevolent-looking dude, but actually do note that there is still a ragged hole in his chest. And, artistically, I almost wonder if that shows that hole in his chest, what happened to him, that it's still a part of who he is, that he still is holding that grudge from being chained. Long ago, perhaps, his ambitions were to change the cosmos to what he thought would be just. To actually make something genuinely better and good, The same line that he got Sylvanas on board with. But I think he was changed by his long imprisonment. I can't imagine that Zovaal's original sigil-empowered form was the great horned nightmare that we were introduced with at the end of the cinematic, right? I mean, even Sylvanas is shocked by how fast Zovaal threw off any pretense of morality and having a just cause, when he of course told us, and I quote, "I will forge a new reality where all shall serve." And make no mistake, he has the power to make all serve. He then opens this portal that is like nothing we've seen before. And as the last while in Warcraft has told us, pay attention to forms of magic. When he uses this, we see these golden, radiating fractals. It is just like what Al-Farim describes, and it's nothing like what we've seen before. You don't have to think for too long before you realize that's a portal to the sepulchre of the First Ones, and that type of magic that we see him use is that of our makers. A form of magic that, perhaps within, all of the stuff that we know exists. Because if you follow Al-Farim's, knowledge, that's kind of it. It's that far more primal fundamental soup, and you wind the clock back. So Val's got it. What's he going to do with it? When we first arrived in Oribos, Talinara told us that a free Jailer was the end of everything the First Ones made. Now, of course, the various beings of the Shadowlands, like Ranathal, they've all worried about Shadowlands-related problems, but we should take that line very literally. After all, the Titans are also creations of the First Ones, as are the Naru, or at least whoever created them. Azeroth, therefore, is a creation of the First Ones. And she couldn't just be another Titan, right? Because we know she is the most powerful Titan. But with all of this wild new lore, I mean, what more could she be? Death comes for the soul of our world, we were told, but if Zovaal has access to the Sepulchre of Knowledge, then why does death come for the soul of our world? Why does he need Azeroth? And clearly there's more to her. Life and order, of course, got to Azeroth first, right? But every antagonistic, from our perspective at least, cosmic force wants to conquer Azeroth. Void, Fel, Death, they're all trying. And then, of course, Light. Light's probably going to take its shot soon if you think about what Blizzard have established. Everyone wants a slice of Azeroth. Well, not a slice, they want all of it. So either Azeroth is just extremely powerful, enough to tip the balance, or there is something more to her. Something that's a bit more essential to the First One's design. Either way, we pretty much can deduce that Zovaal must combine what he learns and acquires from the Sepulchre with Azeroth. He needs Azeroth. So he knows that if he achieves this, he'll be able to remake reality. And that is why he had to secure the Sepulchre first. That's the reality notes the Jailer's ambition, and it's kind of ironic and tone deaf. He called the Maker's design unfair, yet he wants to create a cosmos with himself as the apex power and everything else under his domination. It sounds really like he essentially internalized the domination magic that bound him for so long, and now he's at a stage where the one thing he understands is being the Jailer, just that now it's being the Jailer of the entire cosmos. It's less grand, it's more straightforward, and it's a lot more evil than we perhaps expected. Or is it? I mean, when he says, witness reality's end, could we take that as literal? You know? End of reality, or end of reality as we know it? That is the question. The knowledge of the Sepulchre and the power of Azeroth. Once he gets him, what's he going to do? Where does the story go from here? Well, first of all, we can interrogate Sylvanas, and I'm sure that Sylvanas is going to offer up some key insight to Zovaal's defeat. But realistically, thus far, Zovaal has won. He has got to the Sepulchre, and he is about to rewrite reality. So what is patch 9.2 then? And here's a few suggestions. First, we go to the Sepulchre, and we face Zovaal. It's nothing like anything we've seen before for a patch. We go to the home of the First Ones, or whatever it could be. We see these crazy structures made by the progenitors themselves. I mean, your headcanon, my headcanon is very much so this would feel like the space jockey in Alien, where, you know, the characters in Alien see the space jockey and suddenly everything is different. But, you know, taking with us everything we've learned from the Brokers and from Tazavesh. You know, that would be something huge and describable in its scale, which honestly does sound like, well, both a design headache and a pretty big patch. Alternatively, and perhaps likely, it's a bit of my own personal headcanon, or suspicion, Zovaal could, you know, do the thing he's been telling us he's going to do. Come for the soul of our world. Make his move in Azeroth, right? He can come down through the shattered sky, and he can, get Azeroth. It would be a fantastic opportunity for Blizzard to save some money on creating assets, which, honestly, I support if it means we're, you know, getting lots of content, right? Because art assets does not always equal content. You know, we could go back to Icecrown, Northrend, bit of an update to the region, some new content to do. I mean, could be pretty nice, and maybe I have some sort of video planned on what a 9.2 could be. So, we know that Zovaal's ambition is to rewrite everything and to enslave all of us. We know he intends to do that using whatever he finds in the Sepulchre, which is where he goes, almost certainly, immediately after the cinematic that we all saw. And we know that he's, well, right now as you watch this video, he's there, having a think. We now just need to wait and see what he's going to do with that power. And if you're wondering as to when, well, the final chapter of the patch 9.1 campaign was not on PTR. So, I think we'll find out then. Well then, now you know what direction we're going in, but you've probably got even more questions. I mean, why is the Maker's design flawed? If the First Ones created the cosmos, the term is to understand it, and the pantheons to shepherd it along, then why is it flawed? You know, what's wrong? What made it all go sideways? What's the problem with their design? We've heard several times that the Shadowlands is a flawed system, from the Forsworn specifically, who call it rather selfish. So what's going on there? look out into the wider cosmos then, and you see so much strife. There's just war and chaos and suffering everywhere. Is that intended? Is that the flaw in the Maker's design? Or is there something a lot more deep going on here? Well, our final point on Al-Farim is fun. Our final point for today, anyway. It's an offhanded reference that he makes to a 7th primal force. Remember, there were 6 forces that gave rise to the cosmos, but Al-Farim, he talks about a 7th power, what he called a geometric fractal, one that interacts with all of the others, but in a way that he could not understand. If you were the first ones, would you not make your creation perfect, right? You know, what if there was one force in the cosmos dedicated to imperfection, something underpinning everything? What is that 7th fractal? Is it the note of discord that strums through the entire setting of Warcraft? There's a lot of big things there, and yes, I'm teasing that we're going to have a deep dive soon. But for now, you know what Zoval's been trying to do for all of this time, vaguely why, and what he's probably going to do next, so I hope you found that interesting. That's it for me. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.